Hi, I'm Stephen D. Snyder here on the very famous John Lennon educational tour bus. And I'm very, very pleased. I have a very talented music producer, engineer, and mixer with us, Mr. Shebib 40.
Yes, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise, Steve.
I want to know, how did you get that name? How did you get your nickname as 40?
The name 40 comes from 40 days and 40 nights because on the first major label project I was doing, there were a bunch of kids in the studio who would fall asleep and wake up in the morning and still see me in front of Pro Tools. So they called me 40-40 for 40 days and 40 nights because it appeared I never slept.
You know, you're really new, you're up and coming, and you've done some really amazing work. How did you really first get your foot in the door and get started in the music industry?
I think it was like a lot of things, I guess, in my life sort of pointed me in this direction. You know, I always loved technology and plugging in VCRs and, you know, sort of figuring anything to do with audio out that I could. And I love math and physics, and I played an instrument from when I was a kid. So I think by the time I was, you know, a teenager and falling in love with music passionately, you know, just as a listener and a fan, it became clear to me like this is something I wanted to do. So I tried to chase it any way I could, you know, and I think that's like everybody knows how it happens, you know. You get internships, you show up at a studio, you bang on some doors, you send some random emails, you know, you go to school, you get an education, and you just keep working until something starts happening, you know.
And what was your first really big break that you got that you really are most proud of? The first thing that you really did that really kind of hit?
I think the first thing that I was really proud of in that sense was, it's funny because I'm a producer as well as an engineer. You know, my engineering means a lot to me, as same as my producing does. And people would think that the producing is so much more valuable of an asset to me, but it's not, you know? And I think like mixing Best I Ever Had, and which was Drake's first breakout single, and watching that record go #1 across the country was the best moment and breakout moment for me, to be like, wow, like we just did something and it's real, you know. And that was a big moment for me.
Now you really started at the ground and really just, like you said, just pushed your way through, and you did the Drake record. What has been your biggest challenge in dealing with that success? Has there been any challenges with that?
I guess I've had it pretty easy, you know. I mean, I hide in the studio and keep working, you know. And I think I avoid a lot of the usual challenges that people run into getting into this business, you know, because I just keep working. So any issues that I would be having in personal life or in business world, I kind of avoid.
Sure.
In the name of staying in front of the computer.
So you brought up being in front of the computer. What kind of programs are you really most comfortable with using in front of the computer?
I've always been a Pro Tools user, really, since I've been in this business. And I sequence everything in there, and I track and mix in Pro Tools. I use tons of, you know, different instruments and lots of plugins. But I'm very computer-based, you know. I love mixing on an SSL when it calls for it. And I love the hybrid of both analog and digital domains, but I'm not scared of staying in the box.
Sure. What are you working on nowadays that's a big project coming up? Anything you want to talk about that's kind of coming up?
I don't know. I mean, I'm still sort of winding down from, you know, delving so deep into Drake's last project. And I think I'm going to have maybe a couple more records, some other people I'm going to start working with. I don't know. I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about these days. It's scary. I've got a bunch of stuff going on, but you know, I never really want to put myself in that position until something happens.
Sure.
You know, and I can be confident that a record is going to come out. So.
Where do you see the industry heading in a certain direction? And if so, where do you think the music industry and the mixing and with music production, where do you think that's headed?
So from a technical standpoint.
Sure.
Well, I mean, I think everybody knows the consumer world has sort of, or pro audio has embraced the consumer world much more in the recent past years. And that's a reality for me. You know, I came into this business, you know, armed with a laptop and an M-Box, and was able to do a fair amount of damage. So I think that's a reality now, and I think the rest of the pro audio world is going to have to catch up to that, you know. I think the big studios are always going to be important. You can never escape acoustical environment and proper monitoring and having a room that has isolation. but it's definitely a changing world, you know, and I think everybody needs to sort of be on their toes and know that this stuff's going to be able to come home soon, you know. So.
Okay. Now, if you had to give advice to maybe recording arts students or someone that's being an assistant right now, if you could give them advice from a professional standpoint, you've made it, you've really worked hard at it. What advice would you give somebody that's just starting out in the music industry, or as a producer in the music industry, or in mixing?
I would think I've had two different pieces of advice, like one piece for engineers and mixers and one piece for producers, you know. I think as a producer, it's really about being brave enough to try something different and being confident enough to stand behind it, you know. That's really, really important. And it's hard, and like the cliche of like, believe in yourself and, you know, you'll make it, just believe in yourself. Like, it sounds so ridiculous, but it is so true. Because I may have been making music 5 years ago, and I don't think my process has changed much from then to now. But nobody knew who I was then, and nobody was paying attention to it then. So it just goes to show you that you really do have to trust yourself, because once you get into the industry, you can get your foot into the door and people start taking you seriously. You just have to be confident from day one, when no one's taking you seriously, that your music is that good. And so that's my advice to producers. You know, try something different and be very, very confident with it. And as far as engineers, like, and the mixers, I mean, it's a struggle, man. Everybody knows what it is. You gotta go in the studio and hide, no sleep, you know? Grab a pot of coffee and keep going for as long as you can go until you fall over, you know? It's a war out there in a studio, and I think everybody that gets into this business on a technical side understands that, and it's fun, and it's a dream for everybody. But I guess my only advice to engineers is keep working hard, be as good as you can be the best at your craft, be master of your domain, you know, be that much better than the next guy, and that much quicker, and those are the things. And be a good person, you know, no one wants a jerk in the studio, so those are going to be the things that make you be successful, for sure.
Well, I appreciate you sitting down with us. Appreciate it.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much.
Very talented 40 Shebib here on the John Lennon Educational Tour Bus. Thanks a lot, guys.